My name is Bruce McIsaac, and this presentation is about the method content that is developed by IBM and is included with IBM Engineering Lifecycle Optimization Method Composer, also known as MEC or MEC. Method Composer is an Eclipse client. The content that you create with Method Composer can be your own custom method content, or it can be IBM's content, or it can be a mix of the two. And you can use the Eclipse client to tailor that content and publish websites or generate work item templates. You can also bring that content into Doors Next to do some basic web-based authoring. When you first install Method Composer, it includes a number of published configurations which are accessible through your Start menu. So you can scroll to where Method Composer is, IBM Engineering Lifecycle Optimization Method Composer, and you can see there's a number of published configurations. These two are configurations that are intended to be used on a project or a program. This one, however, All IBM Practices, is intended to give you a view of all of the practices that we have available in our IBM Practices library. If we click on that, it brings us to the published website. Here we can see practices are organized into enterprise, systems engineering, and software development. The bulk of the practices are under software and systems development. As you can see here, we have practices for software architecture, configuration and change management, deployment, development, pretty much covering the entire, all aspects of software development. Under systems engineering, we have various practices for dealing with systems architecture issues, as well as specific practices for specialized topics like electronic design management and so forth. On the enterprise level, we also have practices which are more enterprise in scope. Things like asset-based development, things like method development, things like setting up a performance measurement system, or managing a software capability program and basically improving the processes of your organization as a whole. So you are free to browse this library once you've installed Method Composer to determine which of these practices are relevant to your organizations, and perhaps you'll be able to reuse many of them. You might ask, what kind of content is in these practices? Well, let's take a look at one of them as an example. Let's take a look at, let's say, use case driven development. So if you do use case driven development, the practice gives you an overview of what this practice really is about, tells you how to read it, what content is relevant, refers to books and articles, and generally gives you all the essential concepts like the concepts of what are requirements, what are use cases, and so forth. Then it goes into the very specific work products and how they're represented. Then we have tasks to create those work products and maintain them. We have templates for them, so if you're going to have a use case specification as a formal document, there's a template for that. And guidance for how to do these things with specific tools. So here we have how do you create storyboards and outline requirements with IBM Doors Next. And various guidelines on how to create good use cases, how to refine them, and so forth. And for each of the work products, there's checklists. So there's a lot of guidance on this practice, as you can see. There's also metrics that are relevant. So we have guidance on, what kind of information might you want to track about your requirements. Things like requirements churn, or status trends, or distributions, and so forth. And this is typical of many of the practices, and feel free to browse them and see which ones are reusable for your organization. The library from which that website was published is included with your Method Composer installation, and in fact it opens the very first time you open Method Composer. That library is organized into a number of different layers. We can see there's core plugins, practice plugins, process plugins, and published plugins. Essentially, at the core level, we define the basic roles that we reuse across practices. The practice plugins are organized into various topic areas, such as compliance, covering different standards, management ones covering project management and program management and so forth. and technical practices for software real-time, and systems engineering. The process layer is for creating breakdown structures out of the various practices, and the published plugins are where you create content that's specific to a published configuration. So this is where you'd say, welcome to our organization's process, and you give all the overview information about what's in the configuration. Now, if you decide to use the IBM content, you have several options. You can use the content as is by simply creating a new configuration, selecting those plugins as part of your organization's specific process. Of course, you would create your own plugins as well to add your own unique content. You also have the option of copying content into your plugins, or you could use variability. You have the option with variability to contribute, so you can merge content, you can extend it, basically create new elements that are the same but add your own material, or you can replace content as well. New as of December 2019 is our automotive compliance offering, which is separately licensed and also includes a method library. This method library can be browsed on jazz.net. It'll require that I log in with my Jazz ID, and then I'll be able to browse the content. This is a process for a fictional automotive company, JK Automotive, that seeks to comply with the Automotive SPICE standard. And it addresses various process areas such as project management, risk management, and requirement solicitation, system requirements, and so forth. The idea of this is to help companies comply with Automotive SPICE. This is the library for the automotive compliance offering. However, this library organizes its content into two categories. Those ending in MEC are intended for authoring exclusively in the Method Composer Eclipse client. Those that don't have that suffix, such as automotive, have method content that can be imported into Doors Next and can be authored with Doors Next as an alternative to using the Method Composer Eclipse client. If you're interested in including IBM content in one of your processes, then you need to understand how that content is licensed. There's essentially three ways in which Method Composer content is charged. The first is with the tool itself. So if you purchase the Method Composer Eclipse client tool, then you have one license to access the IBM content. And this lets you view the content, browse it, and see if in fact it is useful to you. If it is useful to you, then for each user that accesses the content, you need to purchase a content reader license. And that gives the readers the right to view IBM library content and derivatives. That includes the published websites or any documents you generate from that content, or if you import the content into Doors Next, then you would need a content reader license for each person accessing that content in Doors Next. There's only one form of licensing for the content reader. It's authorized user only. There's no automated enforcement because you're publishing this typically to your own web server, and there's no way for us to track how many people are using it at any given time. So the required number of licenses has to be negotiated with your IBM seller in good faith. If you use the automotive compliance solution, which is separately licensed, that includes the use of the solution templates, reports, and the method library and any derivatives of that method content. That does use token licensing, and the plan is to automatically enforce that through token licensing. The way this will work is it will check out tokens when the compliance project area is accessed by a user. This was a very quick overview of the IBM content, and if you're interested in learning more, please visit us on jazz.net or the jazz.net forum, #MEC or MEC.